All right, we'll call the City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission Joint Plan Development Workshop agenda for Monday, August the 25th, 2025 at 5:01 p.m. Roll call and certification of quorum. Madam Secretary will certify City Council has a quorum present as all members are present and accounted for. And with that, we'll turn to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Everybody is present, so we have a full house tonight.
Excellent, excellent. All right. With that, any citizens' comments turned in? None, so we'll move forward with our purpose of the workshop. Katya, are you here? There we are. You'll read into the record the reason for the workshop and move right into your presentation.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. This is a request by Travis Donnell, Rockport Ventures, LLC, applicant on behalf of Terry Opplinger, Rackle Jackal Partnership, LTD, owner of a planned development workshop as required by the Unified Development Code regarding a development consisting of 300 multifamily units on approximately 15.0375 acres, generally located north of Magnolia Parkway, west of Manville Road. This workshop is the first step prior to the applicants being able to formally submit a PD, zoning change request. And a summary of the request: the base zoning selected by the applicant will be multiple family district. The goal is to mirror the Delta on the southern side of Magnolia Parkway with 480 total parking spaces with 64 covered spaces. Proposed amenities include a pool, outdoor grills, a clubhouse, a dog park, and common open space. Little history about the site: this property was annexed into the city in 1999. The property is currently not platted and is undeveloped. In 2008, a zoning change and conditional use permit were approved for a hospital. However, a conditional use permit shall expire if a building permit for the use has not been approved within 1 year of the date of approval by City Council. And so the CUP and zone change expired. Let's look at zoning. To the north is our ETJ. To the south is Magnolia Parkway Plan Development, the Delta. To the east is essentially Magnolia Parkway, and to the west is R4, the Emerald Point neighborhood. The future land use place type has this area identified as the mixed use center place type. And here's the applicant's design plan. In the gray color with 3 and 4 are the 3-story residential buildings. In the dark purple with the number 2 is a 3 or 4-story residential building. The orange color is their proposed clubhouse, and the light purple is where their covered parking is proposed. And the pink color is a little bit small. It's on the right side. It's where their maintenance building will be, as well as their trash area. And we can refer back to this with the discussion on how it goes. Shown on this screen is the landscape, open space, pedestrian connectivity, and amenity plan. They have a proposed 5-foot trail and enhanced trails throughout the image. Here's their fencing plan. They have a range of 4 to 6 feet with wrought iron, masonry, and wood fences proposed. Here's their signage plan. They have 1 monument sign proposed along Magnolia Parkway. And here's their tree plan. They have heavy tree presence along Magnolia Parkway, as well as scattered throughout their parking lot and around their proposed detention on the west. Here's their fire lane plan. Here's a field of view. On the right side is the 3-story apartment building. Middle building is a 2-story townhome for reference, and then on the west side of the image is a single-family home. Here's their covered parking concept and their building concepts. Similarly to the Delta, they have proposed an 85% masonry stipulation along the buildings facing Magnolia Parkway, with 50% masonry requirement for the other facades. And here's a few tables identifying their land use summary table, breaking down the acreage and percentage of their multifamily, BDD4 easement reserve requirement, and detention reserve, as well as breaking down their open space and their residential density. The applicant is proposing 13 deviations from the UDC pertaining to this project. The deviations shown, on this screen focus on area regulations related to size and setbacks, increasing the maximum lot coverage from 40% to 65%. This slide shows proposed deviations related to increasing the number of dwelling units from 16 to 25 units per acre, increasing the building height from maximum 35 feet to 50 to 65 feet, and decreasing the amount of common open space required by the base MF zoning. This slide shows the proposed deviations eliminating a minimum landscape requirement, reducing the required setback from screening walls and fences, and revising the required fencing and screening materials for the UDC. And this final slide of stipulations notes revisions to the required building articulation, indicating that the product will look similarly to the Delta across the street, as well as reducing the parking requirement and eliminating the setback for a floodway. After review of the applicant's proposal, along with proposed restrictions and stipulations, staff is partially supportive of the density increase, architecture of the buildings, and fully supportive of the various area regulations, stipulations, and parking reduction. And while a common open space and landscaping plan has been conceptually shown, and there is support from staff at the preliminary level on the various landscape items, a detailed landscape plan will need to be provided, and is recommended that stronger language be introduced in the PD related to landscaping regarding type, specific location, size, quantity, and amenities. Other points of discussion, they have 2 points of access along Magnolia Parkway. One is going to be both ingress and egress, and the other will just be an exit only. The proposed PD has many similarities to the Delta. However, we need to see all stipulations written fully instead of just blanket referencing the Delta. And then finally, here's the multifamily unit mix breakdown, focusing on 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms with potentially 5% studio and 5% 3-bedroom. Here's the design plan again. And that concludes staff report. Mayor, back to you.
All right, thank you for that. See Travis here. Travis, do you have a presentation for us tonight, or just here to get input and feedback? Okay, sounds good. When you go to the podium, just give us your name for the record, and we've got it. There you go. All right, sir. Good deal.
Also got a couple people here with me.
Okay.
Most importantly, Terry, who's the landowner. So good evening. Appreciate all of you for making the time to hear our case. I know everyone has a busy life, so we'll try and be brief and look forward to your feedback. Just a quick bit of background. It was 2 years and 8 months ago that I stood at this exact podium and applying for a zone change for what is now a fully completed project called the Delta. And we're extremely proud of what we accomplished. 2 years and 8 months ago, the city said yes, and today, two years and 8 months later, the property is 100% complete, 92% leased. It's getting the highest rents per square foot in the city of Pearland, and it leased up at a pace twice that of any project we've ever developed. And so it's been incredibly well received. And we're here essentially to look to repeat those successes. But before I get into the specifics, I'd like to give an opportunity to Terry to speak. And he's had a long history owning this tract. So I think his voice should be heard.
Good to see you tonight. Just for the record, give us your name for the record, and then we appreciate you being here.
It's Terry Opliger, and I live in Houston. Actually, hello, I am Terry Opliger, and I'm the current owner of this property. that is under discussion today. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, and I will try and be brief. I think it's useful for me to bring a little bit of the history to the land. So I was the equity partner with Signature from 2010 to 2019. Signature eventually surrendered their financial interest in the property according to the terms of our partnership agreement. Despite their efforts for over 10 years trying to market the property, they were unsuccessful. And for the last 6 years, I have also been unsuccessful in marketing under the current zoning restrictions. I have had the site evaluated by engineers and commercial realtors. There are physical issues with the property. The land has an odd shape due to the way Magnolia was run through the property. The land has some floodplain issues. Detention is very expensive and has expanded over the past several years. Building setbacks absorb a lot of space. The drainage district wants 3 more acres out of the property. The result is there's very little land left to develop and very little land to spread the development costs across. There are marketing issues. Office demand is virtually non-existent. Brick and mortar retail is slowed down in suburban locations. Traffic count isn't what everybody expected on Magnolia. It's not closely established areas like Shadow Creek and Broadway, so they don't get the synergy of that commercial development. Basically, times have changed surrounding the property. The site has been described to me as trying to put a round peg in a square hole. I truly wish our original vision would have worked out. The only real interest I got on this property is from multifamily developers. Most of them do not understand the issues associated with this property. Travis contacted me several months ago, and he fully understood the issues and had the solutions. As you know, he developed the apartment across the street, which has been a huge success. He is the best choice to develop this property. His design will complement the current architectural style, and it will also be a success. As you may know, the property is tax exempt. I'm paying $38 a year in property taxes, and I've been doing so for 15 years. It's a failure by any measure on my part. Council, Travis and I have an opportunity to fix that problem. Pearland will get much more property tax from this project. They'll get a proven developer, a proven concept, and a high-quality project. In closing, I hope that we can all work together to figure this out, something that works for all of us. Baling hay for the next 15 years doesn't seem like in any of our interest. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your patience, and thank you for listening.
So Travis Donnell again for the record. So this image here, this is a rendering of that we showed 2 years and 8 months ago, and we can use it again because one of the goals for Pearland for this corridor was to have a consistent aesthetic, and what we're looking to do in this intersection at Manville and Magnolia Parkway is create a sense of place. And by mirroring what we've built on the south side, on the north side, it makes for a pretty special corridor feel. I'll just get into it. This is my executive summary. I'll circle back here. But I just want to orient everybody. So the star in the middle on the south side of F, this is just outside the Broadway-Cullen Catalyst Zone. So it's interesting, the city updated its comprehensive plan between the time we were last here and today. And it was interesting to note how much changed in that comp plan. Quite a few, actually. And so I just want to highlight a few of those. The first was to encourage middle market housing. That was not in the 2015 comprehensive plan. Specifically, the plan says, consider updating the UDC to allow more diverse housing stock. This should include a combination of allowing certain housing types by right in specific zoning districts, including mixed use and multifamily development and retail and office zones. Specifically, The plan goes on to acknowledge the need for housing that serves young professionals and young families not yet ready to buy a single-family home. Less than 10% of the residents living at the Delta are school-age children. So I know there's been some fear about what apartment density is going to do on the housing demand, but we are not seeing that in our property that we just completed and just finished leasing up. A quick stat, the average resident age is 33 years old. We have students attending Rice University who presumably grew up in Pearland or their families are here and they want to live at home and commute into school. We've got first responders, teachers from Pearland ISD, and a huge array of corporate private employment as well. We've got a very young, gainfully employed residents living at the Delta. And, I think based on how fast this project leased up, it really tells us how much pent-up demand there is for clean, new, quality housing in Pearland. There's just an absolute dearth of new inventory. Everything is 20+ years old, and the city desperately needs new, quality housing. Second thing is in the future land use plan, there is some discussion about projecting future population in the city, and it explored a couple different scenarios. One was, what if all future housing is single-family lots? The second was, what if all of it is multifamily, high-density lots? And the conclusion in the plan was to have a combination of both. And so the plan seems to conclude that the city needs multifamily housing, and that's just a question of where. And when we dig into the location, we think this location, 2 miles south of Broadway, 3 miles east of 288, are removed from the sites that lend to hospital and job-generating projects. We think this is the ideal location to add more housing. And frankly, we felt like we were taking a risk on this location 3 years ago, and we've just been blown away at the reception. People really like living in this quiet enclave away from Broadway, away from 288. I think that's one reason we're getting such strong rents and such high demand. Third, and we'll get into this in a second, but detention, floodplain. It's a huge issue. And the comprehensive plan discusses it. It goes so far as to encourage staff to find ways to incentivize developers to tackle these tough sites. This site we're talking about is a tough site to develop. And we have a solution, which is to increase the density, and that allows us to afford the expensive drainage improvements. So here in a second, we built a detention pond on the south side that holds 23 acre-feet of water. It cost us $1.5 million, and we're our own general contractor, so we can do it cheaper than most people, and it still was very expensive. It has on all 4 sides 10 to 12 feet cast-in-place concrete walls with footings, and I mean, it looks like a lake. It is enormous. But through the density, we're able to afford it. And then fourth, placemaking, mobility, and beautification. Those are all themes touched upon in the comprehensive plan, all of which our proposal makes significant additions towards. So here's the aerial of the site. The subject in question is the 15 acres that looks like a hayfield, which it is today. You can see on the south side of the screen, that's a major Type 1 trailhead that we developed for the city and are about to dedicate to the city in a couple months. The project we're discussing, the Delta, is off to the right. Here's another aerial image. We've got the north arrow there to orient you. Here's one more image, and this is looking over towards Manville Road with Magnolia separating site. Here's an important photo. This is the as-built. This is an actual photo of what we delivered, and we said our goal was to beautify Magnolia Parkway, and I hope we achieved that. We sure put our best foot forward. We, being Magnolia Parkway, the site is subject to the conditional overlay, and so it has enhanced landscaping requirements, higher density trees, that sort of thing. And so right now, the north side of the street is just raw grass, but by actually developing the tract, we can come in and fulfill the obligations of the overlay and plant the trees, add the fencing. And one big consideration here was we pulled the buildings up to Magnolia Parkway, and that was a creative solution to screening the surface parking behind it. And that's what we'd be looking to replicate on the north side. So here's another view of what the streetscape looks like at sort of average height level. That star off to the right, you can just envision replicating what you see on the left side of the screen on the right side of the screen. And so by saying yes and essentially mirroring what we have on the south side, you're going to create this pretty cool corridor to drive through where you've got perfectly matching building facades on 0.4 miles of frontage. This is a photo of the detention pond. You can just see the scale. This is you see the cast in place concrete wall that's about 12 feet tall, and it goes on all four sides. You can't really see the south side of it from this perspective, but the pond is enormous. So I want to I have like 20 different photos, and I know planning and zoning can't necessarily control the interior of these buildings, but we're extremely proud of the quality that we deliver. And so I want to show you guys some interior photos, and I would love to tour any of you through the property myself. I'd be happy to arrange that for a big group or individuals, whatever's appropriate. Here's our model unit, 1 bedroom. We've got 3-centimeter quartz countertops and the kitchens and bathrooms that we import from Vietnam. We've got custom cabinets. We also import from Vietnam. We're able to get really high quality. The manufacturing and overseas is just pales kind of, US production is not as good, put it that way. Here's our living room. Here's a bedroom. All right, here's a bathroom. I know it seems a little silly showing you a restroom, but we've got backlit LED lighting, custom cabinetry, quartz countertops. It's just a really nice product. Custom shelving in the closets. We do big 42-inch garden tubs, tile walls, tile flooring. Here's our clubhouse entry. Here's one of our gaming lounge areas. Here's a conference room. There's a gym, yoga room. Here's our pool deck and clubhouse area. So that's the product we built, and that is what we'd be looking to replicate. But if the city says yes, what's going to be unique about getting to basically do this over is there are certain floor plans that leased up faster than others. There are certain details that we maybe would have added and could add on the next iteration. And so, essentially we're looking to do version 2.0, which is going to be the same but better. So this is the site plan. Katya, I think you did a pretty good job highlighting everything. So I don't know if it's better to pause here and do Q&A. But just to take it home and explain, what we think the opportunity is. One, we think this is an opportunity to approve a PD that is both aligned with the 2040 comp plan and clearly meets the highest and best use for the site. is evidenced by the success of phase 1 across the street. 2, it's an opportunity for the city to overcome citywide drainage challenges and secure economic development and density on a raw piece of land that has material detention challenges, future BD4 drainage easements, and I need to go back and talk about that, and its unique triangle shape. 3, we know resilient finances is a goal of the city, and this is a clear, repeatable opportunity to capture additional tax revenue. This year, the phase 1 project was assessed at $38 million, and we're gonna pay $802,000 in property taxes. And we expect that number will go up next year materially because that was a partially complete assessment. 4, we talked about this, but beautification and enhancement of Magnolia Parkway with a modestly scaled, in our opinion, but modern and urban architecture. I got a lot of slides. So I want to talk about BDD4. We know the city has a great relationship with them. We've worked with them, and they're great people. I'm not sure the city's aware that they operate 2 ditches on this property on the far running north-south on the west side of the property. They have no easement rights. The title, this property needs to get platted, but they've been self-operating a ditch on Terry's property for a number of years. So when this property gets platted, BDD4 has asked for that easement, 57.5 feet from the center line of their ditch. And then on the north side of the property, east-west, they want 37.5 feet from the center line of an existing ditch that there's no record of them ever having the right to construct. So there's a little bit of debate, but we've come up with a win-win solution. This project, we can get BDD4 everything they're asking for, which will make their maintenance operation easier, and also be happy ourselves with the entitlement package. So altogether, out of the 15 acres, with our plan, 4 acres are lost to detention. It's a significant chunk. And if someone else were to come in with a lower density business plan, they could not afford to do an 8-foot deep cast in place concrete detention pond. So that 1.6 acre footprint would at least double. So I'm just pointing out the density benefits that a project like this brings to the table. I think, this is important. So we've proposed in the variance table, we volunteered, knowing that the HOA next door has about 8 homeowners on our property line. Well, we want to respect their privacy, and so we've placed the detention pond as a buffer between our project and theirs, and we're willing to offer a 230-foot setback off that property line. And we actually probably have space to increase it a little bit further, so we can go back and when we come back for an official application, we'll max out the amount of setback we can give. But as you can see here on the far right, that is a 3-story building, field of view into a backyard, and it is not invasive. And so we're very thoughtful and mindful about that. Just wanted to point that out. We know surface parking, sometimes is not ideal for in the summer and the rain. And so one thing we've done different with this plan is we've built like we've designed a supercharged carport. So if you're looking at the site plan on the far west side, you see that purple awning. It's essentially a carport on both sides with a 10-foot gap in the middle with a sidewalk. So any parking zone proximate to that roof can access the roof and walk, the 300 feet down to the building if there's parking challenges. So that's one upgrade we've proposed from the south side of the street. Yeah, and these elevations are actually the elevations we built. These are real elevations from the south side of the property And I would pose a question. Katya, I think you had a comment in there about wanting to consider doing some Juliet balconies on the Magnolia side. We'd be happy to put 100% balconies on the Magnolia side. When we came through last time, we thought the city didn't want them, so we did not put them on Magnolia side, but we would defer to the city. We'd proceed with or without them. That pretty much concludes it for me. So happy to answer questions. Hopefully I didn't miss too much.
All good. Thank you, Travis. We're going to go to our planning and zoning first and then to city council. One of the, and I want to make sure that everybody, both groups, these workshops are designed for a couple of things. One, provide constructive feedback for a project. But number two, and especially when we start talking about multifamily, we want to make sure engage interest. If it's a yes, it might take you a little bit more to get there, especially with some feedback. If it's going to be a no, I'd rather let them know now, not string them out month after month after month, making changes, spending money. So we referred to it as a cheap and quick no versus month after month after month. So want to make sure that we gauge that with both planning and zoning as well as council, so we can give you accurate feedback. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
All right. With that, Mr. Chairman, we'll kick it off with you guys.
Thank you, Mayor. Trey, you want to kick it off? Henry?
Well, to your point, I'm a conditional yes. How's that? The current project that you own or managed or constructed, hats off to you. I drive by there at least 5-6 times a week, and it's been a pretty clean construction project overall. Been a couple of delays here and there with some people doing work, right there, but for safety reasons, parking a big truck, but the signage was out, the thing was blinking, or the cones were out. But there wasn't a lot of dirt, et cetera, that was spread out over half a mile, and it wasn't dusty like typical, or many construction projects are. So I appreciate that very much. The current zoning that was touched on, office professional, I believe, I don't think we're going to see anything office professional out there for another 40 years. And to me, this site, and it was mentioned how the road curved, and it wasn't straight lines. It's not straight lines, and that leads to wasted land, basically. This is a good utilization of the land. It's a good, to me, it's a good project. It worked across the street. It's a proven area. So if we're going to put multifamily in Pearland, and we've had a lot of multifamily interest in Pearland and continue to have multifamily interest in Pearland, it needs to be on the right site, the correct site, and I think this is probably one of those correct sites. In challenging sites, we've talked about becoming more of an infill town. A challenging site needs flexibility to work, and I think this site, we should have that consideration. I hope we do. The ISD was mentioned. Again, I go back to when we were working on the comp plan. Mr. Berger himself, the superintendent, was on the comp plan committee, and I had a lot of discussions with him, one of which he stated, and he stated it for the whole group to hear, that, and this goes back 2 years, I believe, that this was the first year that the kindergarten class was smaller than the graduating class. And that scares a lot of the thinkers in the ISD, right? That didn't sit well. And now we have a competing private schools, et cetera. So I don't think you're going to negatively affect the ISD. And I think you even mentioned only 10% of the apartments have children in them of school age. So that's not going to make a dent, I don't believe. The neighbors next door, I realize there's an HOA, I think you said, but I didn't even know that. If I'm not mistaken, they're not in the city limits, correct? Is that ETJ?
The track to the north that abuts it's a donut hole in our ETJ, but the 8 or so property owners to the west, that is in the city.
Okay, so appreciate you considering those. I know we used to have when we had retail nodes, there was a diagram in there that said from a 6-foot fence, for every 3 feet out, you could go 1 foot up, and that was the visual or field of view that we wanted to stay within. I noticed you had 44 degrees. I was told there would be no math today, so I don't know how to calculate that, if that's more or less than 44 degrees. But you know, that for me, that 3-to-1 rule, I'm fine with that. What I didn't understand on your drawing, it showed the field of vision was for a 2-story, but in your package, it says that building is going to be a 3-story and 3 or 4-story.
Yeah,
Just to understand.
yes, sir. Sorry, that was a confusing. We should not have included that 2-story townhome. It's not on our plans. It was more just a reference point, just to show, hey, if there was a 2-story house here, how would it compare? But the 3-story building you see there is aligned from a east-west direction with the setback on the plan,
Where the 2-story would be is where your covered parking is,
approximately.
approximately.
Okay. Maybe when you come back with the PD, if it comes to that, we get more of a correct rendering
Yes,
to
sir.
understand. And then for me, I'd rather see, honestly, a 4-story against Magnolia and the 3-story in the back. It's covered that way. What I noticed with your first project when I drove it, I was expecting the urban style look that you have fronting Magnolia throughout the complex. And then I noticed, well, behind it are garden style looking. I'm not calling them garden style, but they look that way. I don't know the difference between the two from a technical standpoint, just the visual. So I've spoken to staff about that, and they said, no, they never agreed to do that. It's not like you pulled one over on the city. We just wanted the look up front, and I think you achieved that. It's a wonderful looking facility
Thank you.
for an apartment. Let's say that. Density, me personally, I'm only one vote on this board. I don't care about density. For me, if it's going to be a multifamily, if it's 15 units per acre or 25 or 35, I would much rather you maximize the land than not maximize it, just to meet a number and a table. And balconies was one of the last things you mentioned. In concept, it's great to have them on Magnolia, but how does the city regulate when people put their bicycles, pets, wet towels, bathing suits? I'll leave it at that. You know, the point being, you can't regulate it, and it sounds great, but I don't know that that's what we want to drive by and look at when you've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars constructing a beautiful building. So,
We'd be happy either way.
but I'm a yes.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, I'd like to say congratulations on the project that you've already completed, and as I understood,
Thank you.
almost 100% occupied.
Yes, sir.
The only question I have is on egress, and with it being associated across the street from the Delta, traffic congestion, trying to get out in your entrance and your exit of the Magnolia property versus the Delta property, with the logistics.
So we
Are we sharing the same turn in, turn out of the median, or are we somewhat east or west where there would not be congestion
yes, sir.
at turn in?
So happy to answer that. So I pulled up the slide that could help. So this is our phase 2 site plan on top of an aerial that shows the phase 1 existing site plan. The entrance to the Delta is off where my cursor is circling. If that's visible to everybody.
Yep.
And then the entrance to this phase 2 is going to be here. And this is going to be the main entrance. So right turns in and left turns in. And what our traffic consultant advised is we'll have to do likely a median cut and have about 150 feet, I think, is required for cars to pile up, and to avoid cars piling up for a left turn in. And then down here, we'll have an exit only. So you can't take a left turn here around this bend, only exits right. And that was what our traffic consultant who advised on this first phase said was the safest and best plan. So we started there when we drafted this site plan. That was our very starting point, was considering that access. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure Henry left us much. I would just say
I agree.
I would be in favor. We were here a couple years ago with a similar project to this property, and I think it generally had support. I think keeping Magnolia more residential and keeping our retail office more central and supporting those areas versus spreading them out. And I would just say I'd love to see greater buffers to the west and the north, more trees, whatever, just to kind of add some extra separation.
Yes, sir. We can work on that.
Great presentation. It's a yes for me. I think it's definitely the best use of that property.
Thank you. I too am going to be a yes. The only thing that I ask of y'all is to go talk to the HOAs, stop any problems. There will be no parking on Magnolia Parkway, correct?
That is correct. The only parking that would be somewhat visible is the inevitable arrival spots, because we'll put up gates. If you look at the cursor on the screen here, you pull in, and future prospects and the public can park right here. That's it. Everything else we use 6-foot brick masonry walls to screen any other areas that could possibly be visible.
Okay. And do you have a price point yet
For the construction cost?
for the rental?
Oh, for the rental, I can tell you exactly what we're getting across the street. I guess this is public. This is not public information. But our 1-bedrooms are on average about 730 square feet, and they earn about $1,500, $1,530 a month.
Okay.
And then our 2-bedrooms are about $1,950 a month on average, and they average about 1,075 square feet. And that puts the per square, I don't have the math off the top of my head, but I think the blended per square foot rents right now are about $1.95. The highest rents in per square foot, at least in the city of Pearland, that we're aware of.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, I did forget, Jennifer.
Yes, I like the product that you put up across the street. I think it looks really great, and I like the buffers that you put in place, and the fact that we can't see all that parking from Magnolia Parkway. So I'd be a yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes planning and zoning. Back to you, Mayor.
All right, we'll bring to council for the same drill. Who wants to lead off? Ms. Kate?
I like Commissioner Fortes said, multifamily interest in Pearland, but it's not by the residents, unfortunately, because we get a lot of grief about multifamily. So I'm hesitant on this, but I do like your tree plan. I will say that if it's really going to happen, yeah. Was the tree plan across the street similar to this?
Yes, and we're happy to enhance from the standard used on the south side if that would make a difference.
And there was something else I saw. It's up to 300 units. Did you talk about that? You said somewhere in here it says up to 300 units. but then a maximum count of 315. However, 25 units per acre allows for 375 units. Which one is it?
Sorry, mental math. 15 acres times 25.
It's 375.
Pull it out.
Member Kate, if I could chime in on that.
Yes, thank
That was just a discussion about allowed density. There's a comment in the proposed PD document that talks about going up to 25 units per acre, but really and truly it comes down in the 20-ish range. But currently multifamily caps at 16 units per acre. So that's what the discussion was about. I'm sure once we get into actual PD drafting language, that they'll have a more refined unit count and be able to get closer in on what their end proposal would be.
Martin, actually, that just triggered my memory. What's confusing to us, there's definitions of gross and net that are different than how we speak about gross and net in the private industry. So the 25 was based on the city's definition under the UDC. It's a little wonky. It's not 15 acres times 25. It's more like 11 times 25, something like that.
And one more question. Will all units have a balcony?
Except for the units facing Magnolia, which is what we agreed to on the south side. And we'd be happy to add them if the city has changed its mind, or keep them hidden.
Thank you.
All right. Chavarit.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Can you identify in the map where the four-story complex will be located?
Yes, ma'am. It's the purple building in the middle. So the two gray buildings are 3 stories, and the reason we can't do 4 stories up against Magnolia is because one very important design criteria is the distribution of parking spots relative to where the units are at the property. And if you add a 4th story along Magnolia Parkway, you end up with people who have to walk 350 feet. And I believe the project that came in through the Brownstone Group on this tract a long time ago was a 5-story project, and it was all fronting Magnolia Parkway, but the parking field was criticized by a lot of members at the city. And so we've gone to great lengths to try and allocate density across this oddly shaped property to minimize the parking minimize the number of people who may have a difficult parking situation.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Questions, comments? Mr. Patel?
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of questions. If you can go back to the, I guess your slide where you had your current development and the, so I'll tell you that intersection, I think Barry Miller is at that corner, if that correct?
Yeah, it's just north of the.
So I will tell you, coming down Magnolia, going eastbound, trying to turn left in the morning, the traffic backs up.
Okay.
And I would tell you, adding additional, first of all, I'm open to this idea because I think you're right. The land is probably the best use for it. And I remember a long time ago, this land, they were looking at building a hospital. Right. And so I'm familiar with this land and the development process that's been going through. Couple other questions and comments I would make. So that traffic is concerning to me. That is a big concern in the morning. And I don't know if you're driven on 518 in the morning. Every apartment has a bus that stops. Whether you say your development doesn't, your location will, if there are kids, those are some of the best schools right there. So you're going to be zoned to a really good school. So I'm pretty sure parents who are looking to move into an apartment complex, they would consider that. So that's going to be an issue for traffic on Magnolia that concerns me. So I would like for you to figure out a way to address that. I think the other thing is we talk about traffic lights. I hate to add a traffic light, but the speed that people drive on Magnolia concerns me, people turning in and out. So I think, TIA is probably necessary and to figure out if a traffic light is necessary to turn in and from your development.
Okay.
You had mentioned something earlier that in your first phase, you're deeding something over to the city. I guess in this corner, you're building a park, and it's a beautiful little park. And you had mentioned something about you're deeding that over to the city of Pearland, correct?
Yes, sir. Right there.
Yes, sir. Are you maintaining that park, or is that going to be on our responsibility?
We've already got an agreement fully agreed to. We did a development agreement relating to this specifically.
Okay.
I believe it's a mix of responsibilities. Certain things we're responsible for, certain things the city's responsible for.
Okay.
Member Patel,
Yep.
if you wanted some additional details on that, I believe the grounds are the responsibility, the grounds and the trash are the responsibility of the commercial development. The equipment itself is something that the Parks Department is going to do. So people who are adjacent and living there who are most likely going to use it, they're going to maintain the grounds.
Perfect.
And then the people who are in the business of maintaining park equipment are going to maintain that park. I thought I saw Carrie earlier.
On
sounds
your
right.
on your 3-story buildings, are you guys? Is it an in corridor, and is it going to have elevators, or is it garden style?
Well, whether they have elevators or not, the design is the same. It's just whether it's 3 or 4 stories. If you go 4 stories, you have to put an elevator in it.
Yep.
The 3-story buildings will not have elevators. The 4-story building will.
So, but is it an in corridor or is there going to be an open hallway?
I don't understand the question. It's a corridor. There is a corridor.
So let me, is the corridor HVAC? Is it going to be cooled and heated?
No, it will not.
So it's open.
Open breezeway corridors, yes.
Okay. So it's similar to what you already have on this side on the other phase 1.
Yes, although there's no, if someone wanted to, that decision is not in the PUD.
Yeah.
We could decide at a later date to do that if we wanted.
To me,
Yeah.
I think it feels more higher scale than open, right? I mean, I hate to tell you, again, along Magnolia, you have a beautiful development, but on the backside, it does just feel like garden style, And so I certainly don't want that illusion. I'd rather have something that's, completely covered and cooled, and I think it just is a better feel, and security-wise, I think it's better. And also, I would say, look, I'm not a big fan, but I would strongly urge you to go talk to the residents, because I do not want a room full of residents, because this will flip very quickly for me to say no.
Yes, sir.
Because I think it's important that they understand it and they buy into this. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Can we go back to that sightline image again real quick?
Does this one work? Or
No, the sightline from 365 feet away.
Pardon me.
Yeah. So that's 365 feet away for the 3-story apartment building, but if I heard you correctly, the structure that's actually going to be closest to the homes is 4-story.
The PD is currently drafted to either 3 or 4. It hasn't been determined. We don't know yet what we're going to do. The reason we asked for the flexibility to do 4 is because we're trying to give ourselves a little bit of room with these BDD4 easements. They're looking to take 37.5 feet plus from the center line of this east-west ditch. And if we get ourselves in a situation where they're not cooperative with us and they mandate that full acreage instead of meeting us somewhere in the middle, my solution was going to be to go 4 stories and do tuck under parking garages on that north side so that I could make up
The density.
that lost acreage. So the short answer is we don't know. We haven't decided if it's 4 or 3 yet.
Oh.
But the ask is for us to have that choice.
I would be curious to see, because right now at a 3-story from the top of the building, which I understand that's not where your patio is going to be, it's not on the roof. But if I'm reading this right, from the top of the building, you won't be able to see because it's 5.5 feet and they're going to have a 6-foot fence, right? Am I looking at this correct? Because it's very small.
I think so.
Okay. But when you go to 4 stories, that's going to change that. So I'd be curious to see what happens. And that doesn't change things today. I just pointing that out. If that is
Okay.
going to become 4-story, what does that look like?
We'll
Go to the
do a
landscape.
better job with this analysis when we come back.
Okay. And can we go to the landscape plan real quick, please? Yeah. I think this is great. I would look for that reason along the side with the detention pond. Maybe in your conversations with DD4, can you put some trees on the other side as well to help with that visual buffer to those homeowners to that side?
We love your help convincing them to let us plant trees there.
Yeah, I'll have a conversation with them if it's helpful. I don't know how helpful it'll be, but I'll definitely talk to them or see if there's something you can do to help with that buffer. Yeah, we do know a couple of them over there, don't we? To the north, you're much closer to those houses than you are to the west because you've got the detention pond buffer and the parking and the covered. Looking at satellite imagery, it looks like a lot of those houses to the north of you they're kind of treed up in their backyard already.
What happened?
Lawrence got tired of hearing me, so he's like, nope.
Is it a bug?
You're right, Lawrence? So that's just something else to potentially look at as far as sight lines are concerned.
Yes, sir.
To buffer to the homes. You okay, Lawrence?
And the just to share some information. So in that green area that's running east-west on the boundary, there's currently a ditch there. It's not shown in this plan. And we're planning to offer BD4 to replace their grass ditch with a concrete channel and maintain it privately so that we can mitigate how much land is lost to that. And that will allow us to do more of a landscape buffer. Okay. But if the BDD4 is insistent that they're in control of that, then per their code and their standards, they will not allow us to put trees in their easements. And so we should win that battle, but just wanted to air that.
Yeah, understood. Also, I know you've kind of gotten some different input on balconies. I would say facing Magnolia Parkway, no.
Okay.
To me, that just doesn't make sense. I just have this vision of people just sitting on their back patio staring at Magnolia Parkway, and that would detract from what you've already built, in my opinion.
Okay. Fair enough.
With the Delta. And then I had one other question on these trees. You had a picture of the existing Delta with the trees and the power lines and all that kind of stuff from the road.
Yes, sir.
That one. Yep. So you're going to have matching overhead power on the other side?
I assume so. Some of that is out of our control. It's in CenterPoint's hands, who's the electrical power provider.
Okay.
But I assume they would be the same.
Okay.
I think it's a safe assumption.
Understood. This picture actually helped me a little bit more. From a different picture, it looked like all those trees were underneath the power lines, and I was hoping we were getting away from that so we don't have the V-shaped tree butcher job every year. But it looks like those are offset far enough away where they won't get into the power lines. And we can essentially expect the same thing across the street, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Let me follow up on that before we do. So, staff, it goes back to, I know when this came through for the PD, the Delta did before, we did not have that discussion about trees and power lines. I know these are not directly under, but I guess the point is, at what point, if these are oaks, do they get up to a point where even the outer branches, 20 years from now, are getting up and in there? So, Vance, you and your team, on the landscaping side, making sure that these are more, get to a height of 12, 15 feet, not 30 or 40, and could eventually get up and into that. That might be worth the conversation, at least across the street. We can't do anything about the Delta, but we can do the other. And I know we've had that discussion. So anyway, open back up, Mr. Patel.
Sorry, if possible, if you can run the power lines on the back of your property. I don't know if it's possible. I would love for you to bury it if possible, but if you can't, if you can run it on the back side of the utilities, that would be much better than on Magnolia. So thank you.
Again, I think that's a center point question, and I like the thought of that. Same thing on 518. I raised that question last week when we redo 518. Is there any way to relocate to the backs, not up to the front? You can get that power line down. So might be a consideration with them. It'd be interesting to hear what their thoughts are.
Certainly
Any other
ask
questions, comments? Mr. Carbone?
So last time you were here back in September of 23, I think you were at CTC Residential, and I think you brought some other folks talking about that, and now you're with Rockport Ventures.
Oh, yeah, sure. Happy to clear that up. So CTC is our construction company. It's my partner's company, and we separate some of the development and site acquisition side of the process from the construction side of the process, but we're one and the same.
Okay. So it'll be the same team executing?
Yes, sir.
I agree with the comments on height, and then the HOA as well. Please reach out to them. If you go to the aerial, I mean, this site, I don't know, the site to the south, that seemed to fit. It feels like we're trying a little bit harder, budding residential on both sides without the big ditch. And I've got some feedback from neighbors that live in that area that weren't too thrilled to see that multifamily go up. So I'm not gonna sit here and say yeah. I think it's a good looking product. I think it does have some challenges, and I look forward to getting some public feedback to see if they're okay with it.
Okay.
Cousin?
Thank you, Mayor. As far as the balconies that were mentioned, I would be against the balconies facing Magnolia. I don't remember which commissioner made the comment about what would be hanging from them. So what you have on the south side would work for me. On the landscaping aspect, could you bring that up real quick?
Yes, sir.
So the selection of trees that you have right here, I know there were some comments of oak trees. None of the trees right here have any type of oaks, which are pretty native to our part of the world here. But can you kind of give me some insight as to the different trees that you selected?
I'll take a second look at this, and when we're back, I could comprehensively answer that question.
Okay.
In all honesty, we hadn't focused on that level of detail with this set yet.
Okay, that's fine. I just, when I saw it, I was like, it's interesting.
This might just be the selection of fruit. No, I see elms. I see cypress and elms and sycamores. I'll follow up.
Okay, that's fine. It was just the curiosity more than anything else. You had made a comment that you learned some things from the Delta that you would improve upon if we were to move ahead with this. What improvements, what things would you do to make this a better facility?
I think we would expand our common area building a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. I think on the floor plans, we built too many small one-bedroom units. So I think we'd stick to our larger one-bedroom units. What else? And I just think overall we were just a little bit surprised with how qualified the demographics are in terms of an income ratio. And so I think they can afford things like this carport that we're enhancing. It's a pretty expensive carport design here. So that's one enhancement. We don't have any covered carports on the south side or any parking garages. So that's something we're going to consider as well. But it's all the details, it's once you've done something, you can go back and do it even better the next time.
Okay. All right. I know we have one city staff member living in the Delta right now. So, they've appreciated the product that you have there now. So we do have at least one that I'm familiar with. And to kind of mention some of the other comments, the only thing that ever tends to kind of steer this away is the buy-in from the community immediately next to it. So I know while BDD4 doesn't really like trees in their area, they'll knock things down without any further ado when they're putting their ditches and whatnots in. But anything we could do if we were to move forward along the west and north side of screening, whether it be landscaping, trees, whatever can be accomplished with them would be appreciated, because for me, I'm not willing to commit at this today, but I lean in favor of it. It's more so the surrounding neighborhood, because we have had folks come in before that have kind of changed the direction of which way something might go.
Yes, sir.
So
No,
if you
thank
can,
you.
if you can definitely get some buy-in and and talk with the folks, it would be a lot easier project.
Okay, thank you. Duly noted.
Mr. Fernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that overall, I really like what y'all did to the Delta. When I drive by it, I think y'all did a really good job with that, kept it clean, like some comments that were mentioned. I'm going to echo some of my colleagues up here. I am very concerned of the HOA. I will say that again, I would reach out to them, make sure that, you speak with them. Traffic is a concern because of the school. I think that, phase one, the Delta, that was a certain amount of cars coming in, a certain amount of people coming in. Obviously, it's been very successful for you guys. Now we're adding or potentially adding a second, adding that many more people, that many more vehicles. I am concerned on the traffic side, but I would like to have a little bit more answers on the public comments and what they feel on that end. But just wanted to add that. Thank you, Mayor.
Good deal. I'll kind of end up. Can you go to the mix breakdown? It was in the plan. It was the 35%, 55%, one bedroom, two bedroom, so forth.
Oh, I don't think that's in my presentation.
Might have been in the staff's then. So there you go. So how does, we're talking about the target, 5, 55, 35, and 5. How does that line up with the Delta?
Ooh, we did 0 studios. We did all proper one bedrooms. One bedrooms, I believe, were 62%. And then we did the balance 2 beds, no 3 bedrooms.
Okay. So have you gotten calls for 3 bed?
We are 100% out of 2 bedrooms, but the only inventory we have left is 1 bedrooms.
Okay. So you're looking to introduce a 3 bedroom, albeit on a limit.
Candidly, this was just pasted out of our zoning document on the south side. Hadn't really thought if we're gonna.
Yeah, because my big thing, it goes back to the number of kids and it goes back to the impact of the school district. When you're keeping it to studio 1 bedroom and some 2 bedrooms, you're limiting space, or you're limiting at the end of the day, you're going to limit the number of kids that are in the complex as it is. So anyway, I would kind of look at that. Yeah, I think there's been enough positive comments tonight to at least go to the next level from both P&Z as well as council. I think there's some questions to ask and answer and come back to council. I will say, I think the Delta turned out really good. When we took a look at that, we wanted the product pushed up to the road so you could see the mass and feel the scale of it, and it hides the surface parking. I think you've done a good job hiding it, even with the curve. You have to look at it before you get into the curve, before you can see it. I think the curved walls with the sidewalk, great touch to kind of skirt, if you will, that portion of the project to do that. And so I think that adds to it. You just don't want to drive by and see a sea of cars. And so I think you guys have done a good job doing that. Clearly, the project itself is successful, or you wouldn't be at 92% in, what, 6 months?
From starting construction.
Yeah. So, that I think that's success in and of itself. Sounds like your unit or your tenant mix is good. As has been set up here, most people don't understand the ins and outs of the multifamily. So I'm going to ask you a real direct question so we can get it on the record. Are there any subsidies of rent in the Delta?
Subsidies like from a tax abatement or the like?
No, from like Section 8 or government housing, government subsidy?
No, absolutely none.
All
free market.
It's all free market and Target.
Maybe someone's parent or something like that, but that's about it.
Yeah, we're not looking at that. We're looking at the other. Most people automatically think of subsidized housing when they see a multifamily unit. they don't understand that that has to come before us and even be approved, to even be offered. So just wanted to make sure that we put that on the record. That's all I've got. Oh,
Just one last thing, Mayor. Sorry. I was talking with Vince. There's a road connected to that neighborhood. If you go back to that map, I want to make sure you have no intentions of connecting to that neighborhood through your property. So if you zoom in right there in the corner, right there where your mouse, yep, right there. There is a road there. And I want to be very clear that there's no intentions from you guys to connect into that neighborhood to have an egress or even a fire lane or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, the drainage district, there's actually an easement for a 40-foot wide road that never got built, and I think the drainage department, BDD4, went ahead and used the right-of-way for that road. I think that's how they got their ditch. So there's no possible way to put a road there, and we would have no intention.
That's a good catch.
So.
Good catch. Thank you, Mr. Patel. Mr. Wiley, we'll come back to you for closing comments.
Thanks so much. I just want to ask, sorry if I missed it, how have the live work units turned out on the south side?
They've mixed results. We don't really have a true business there yet. I believe we have potentially our first move-in for one of those units coming. And my understanding from the operations team was that 2 individuals had like it was a married couple. I don't know if I'm allowed, this is fair housing laws. I probably shouldn't say this. Small business owners, where they're going to use the space downstairs to run their small business, and it allows them to have the public interact and come into the ground floor with a fully separated second floor living area. And my understanding is we've signed 2 leases out of the 4 that we have, and I believe the rents are around $3,750 a month. It's a pretty hefty rent. And I'm not sure. I don't think I can share exactly what their businesses are because I don't really know, to be honest. But
I think you're safe with what you said.
Yeah.
Not giving any specifics.
Yeah, and not trying to get into that level of detail, just more wanted to see, we don't have a ton of live work, and just if a phase 2 does come in, if they have been received well, it's something.
I'm not sure. I think they're an interesting product. I'm not sure it's the best location for more of them.
All right, fair enough. And then wanted to see any opportunity to build in some just open office space for the residents, in general at the facility.
We do. So we have we have in our clubhouse building, we always build private office rooms. So they're like 6 by 6 foot cubes, like a WeWork with a window, and people go in there. And then we have a conference room that can be rented out. We use it for multi-purposes. We could throw a party in there and have like a big dinner. So yes, we have co-working spaces in our common areas.
Thanks so much.
All right. With that, we will move to adjournment. 6:14.
Thank you. Thank you very much.